Hello, everyone. Remember last week when we were like, hey, maybe these will be split. Maybe not. Well, guess what? Our original plan of doing 2 episodes in a row failed.
Who's surprised?
Because it involves Callisto, and we tend to talk a lot about that.
We tried so hard to just speed through it, but it's
Not speed
still...
through, but
well,
be normal.
Be concise, but there's no being concise when you're talking about Callisto. We just start ranting and swooning.
Yep, so we swooned quite a bit and had to split these episodes. You might hear some references to 2 of them, but you're only getting the one right now. Next week we will be back with a single episode again for whatever.
Warrior Princess Tramp.
That's right. So it'll be a sequel to a sequel. Okay, so enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to Xena Warrior Podcast. My name is Vera and I am joined as always by my 2 wonderful co-hosts, Katie.
Hello.
And Livy.
Hello.
And this week we have some episodes for you. I would say you can describe these episodes with the S word.
What S word would that be?
Sexy.
Shitty.
No! Absolutely not.
Get out right now.
It's sequels.
The sequels.
That's right. Both Return of Callisto and Warrior Princess Tramp are sequels.
Yes.
And we're very excited to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
You guys want to just jump right in, right?
Yeah. Go.
So, 205, Return of Callisto. It's written by R.J. Stewart and directed by T.J. Scott, our favorite duo of R.J. and T.J.
R.J. and T.J.
I feel like we just had T.J., right, last week?
Yeah, last week T.J. was on the drugs for Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Yeah. Did he fix himself? He's a little bit more sober with this one.
Well, this episode requires some different stylistic choices. He kind of has to present some elements of this plot fairly straight. You can't just have superimposed cackling Bacchus.
Yeah, what do you mean straight? It's pretty
Well,
gay.
sometimes you have to let the action speak for itself. Like,
I'm just talking about Perdicus.
I noticed that the filmmaking for Gabrielle's wedding was very conventional. He didn't want it to get in the way. And I
Conventional,
think
you say?
Yeah, that conventional straight kiss that happened.
Well, I feel like that's very deliberate on his part. You know, when you have Callisto around, things are very askew. When she's gone, conventional, straight.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Well, he's picking up the reins after his first episode, Callisto, from season 1. So I'm very excited to kind of discuss how he expanded upon what he started, I suppose.
He also directed Greeks Bearing Gifts, which was Perd's first episode. So this is him taking all the threads from his previous season 1 episodes and combining them.
You mean Perd 2.0's first episode?
Yes. Excuse me. Perd 2.0. The much better Perd.
Yeah.
Because he looks like Donny Osmond.
Right? That's right. Yeah, Donny Osmond Perd. So I guess we should just, get into it.
Should we talk a bit first?
Oh, right, sequels.
About sequels.
Yes.
What makes a good sequel?
A good sequel is when you take the great original movie and somehow make it even better.
How do you do that?
Various techniques.
It's hard to do.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
Sequels are often much maligned.
Yeah.
Because mostly they fail.
The temptation is just to do exactly what you did before,
Yes.
because that worked.
And
so you
that's
look
the
at that
problem.
and say, like, Hangover 1, everybody thought all those jokes were funny. I know what we should do in Hangover 2. All the same jokes in the exact same order. And people are like, this is boring. I laughed at this before. I'm not going to laugh again.
Yeah. Speed 2.
my
Take
God.
Sandra Bullock, put her in a moving vehicle. But guess what, Jason Patrick, you're no Keanu Reeves.
Absolutely not.
But here's the thing, right? In Return of Callisto, it is actually very similar in terms of structure and in terms of the actual, TJ filmmaking techniques he uses are straight out of the box from Callisto in season 1. And yet they work really, really well here because they're amping the storytelling in all sorts of ways. So he's sort of doing exactly what you saw before, but better.
Well, that has to do with the writing, too, because it is the same sort of plot, but at the same time, an incredible new element is presented. which is Gabrielle and her seeking revenge for the death of Perdicus. Spoilers, Perdicus dies.
Sad.
But yeah, in Callisto, Gabrielle played an important part, but she was much more of a sympathetic shoulder and then a damsel in distress.
Right.
So this is great. Return of Callisto's choice to make her, in many ways, the central figure of the episode. That immediately, I think, defines this as something very different from Callisto.
Right, because then it becomes more about Gabrielle and Xena instead of literally Gabrielle just hanging off of a rope while crazy ladder things are happening.
Yeah.
We also have to think
favorite.
about it right in terms of Callisto's plan. In the first episode, she spells it out that, you know, she knows that Gabrielle is important, so she's going to take Gabrielle hostage, and that's perfect bait to use for Xena. That didn't exactly work out so well for her in Callisto, so now she has to reevaluate in Return of Callisto, up her game. So rather than taking Gabrielle hostage, she says she's going to destroy Xena's soul?
Yes.
Kill her soul? Well, I forget what.
Yeah, I mean,
the
destroy her
specific
soul,
line.
yeah.
And
Like how
her
she-
soul
her soul is
is
destroyed.
Gabrielle.
Right.
And either it's Gabrielle herself dying, or much more upsetting, it's Gabrielle's innocence.
Right, but that was improv for sure. Like the original plan was to kill Gabrielle, and that would have for sure worked on Xena.
That would have killed her soul,
Yeah,
but in a different way.
She improved and killed Perdicus, and she's like, as literally she says, "That'll do." So
That'll do, pig.
right. There's a lot of pig references.
pig,
in this one.
Yeah, in this opening scene we're about to talk about,
Yes.
there's a lot of barnyard animal
Yeah.
likening, a lot of dehumanizing.
Yeah, I mean, I loved the opening scene big time. You open on a jail, and it's like a veteran guard teaching a noob guard how to feed the prisoners,
Right.
the animals,
Yep.
quote unquote.
He's totally giving him the, okay, starling, like, walk
Yeah.
down the hallway, don't look him in the eye, don't pass him anything but soft paper. It's like the most Silence of the Lambs-y thing
They're all
ever.
the toughest, baddest men around.
Yes.
Except for one.
Except for one.
Who's even more tough and even more bad.
I read in an interview that RJ gave that Silence of the Lambs is Liz Friedman's favorite movie. LOL.
Oh my god, that is such a Liz Friedman favorite
Yeah.
movie. I feel you, Liz. I feel you.
I loved how the opening was basically a oneer. It went, and it did a cool thing where it would keep going in and out of a couple of the jail cell windows, which is a really fun technique. I feel like we haven't really seen on Xena before. So the guards kind of go and put the slop into the prisoners' bowls, and then it's like, oh, now we got to introduce like the baddest of the bad, Callisto. This was really funny because he was like, here's what I do. the guard. He
I have so many questions.
this one is a little confounding. It's cool as an idea. He takes the slop and he dumps it into the bowl, but puts the bowl on this on that thing you use to put pizzas in the wood burning oven.
Yeah.
And then pushes that towards Callisto, but she's strapped into a chair.
Her arms are strapped. Her head is strapped.
Her
He
legs are
sticks
strapped.
the wood burning oven pizza thingy into her face and is like, "Watch what I do to this guy." How the fuck does she eat?
Yeah.
How?
I'm imagining that she has a really long tongue like a lizard that just comes shooting out.
Not.
Oh, I'm just confused by it.
Yeah.
Because her arms don't seem to be able to move that much whatsoever.
No, she can't. She can just move her wrists, but it's not enough to
don't
put it in her
get
mouth.
Oh, I don't get it. I
she
really
just
wish I knew.
Doesn't eat in that
But
prison.
but
every
this is
single
his,
time
thing that he does.
Yes.
This is what he does. He taunts her with a bowl
man.
of porridge she can't eat.
That's upsetting. He's like, what do you say?
What do you say, thank you, he's already done with the other prisoners. He dehumanizes them and taunts them and makes them thank him for their grub.
Right.
And then he does the same thing to Callisto.
Except she responds with, I say, before I kill you, I'm going to make you squeal like a pig, you fat, pathetic piece of dung. / shit. So that makes him be upset, so he goes in and beats her shoulders.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
With a
weird beating.
Yeah, it's because you can't hit that pretty face. While this is happening, she steals his dagger, because that's exactly what she wanted.
And she says thank you.
She does, and it's amazing, and throughout this whole exchange, the camera was just going around her, and that was really cool too.
I also noticed that when she gets the dagger and sort of suddenly has power in the scene, the frame rate goes crazy again, goes back into the slow TJ frame rate nonsense, which was all over the place in Girls Just Wanna Have Fun. He's a little bit more restrained in this episode, but he always uses it when Callisto is kind of in control of the scene. She kind of makes everything around her feel a little bit heightened and dreamlike and strange, and I think that's a really clever way of using that technique.
That crazy heightened frame rate goes into the guards playing dice. While that's happening, she's busting free from her restraints, which was a really cool shot. I loved that, her legs, her bare feet.
It was such a dancer.
Yeah.
She like points her toes.
Well, Hudson is very graceful.
She is, yeah. I mean, Lucy Lawless is too, but sort of more athletic.
Not according to Lucy.
Right, Lucy, well, she's a bad dancer. But she's a great fighter, but you do kind of see these are actual differences in the way these two characters fight. Hudson is much more traditionally graceful. Yeah.
I was a little bit upset that later on when you had Xena in that same chair and she does also bust free, that it wasn't mirrored. Like, you didn't see Xena's feet bust out. Like, she flips out of there, and it was a little bit...
She breaks the chains, though.
She does, but I wanted the leg shot, because
Yeah.
that was just so wonderfully powerful, because she's this little girl who literally just takes out all these guards and kills the noob and does what she said, which is make that guy squeal, and comes out of there, like, covered in blood, the amount of blood that you can show, I suppose, at this time. It's just amazing, because all those prisoners are like, holy shit, and they chant Callisto, Callisto, which is just so powerful.
Yeah, because you, the audience member, are kind of chanting Callisto, Callisto.
Yeah.
It's a clever opening, because it does make you feel some measure of sympathy for her. She's with, these misogynistic prison guards who, like, taunt her with gruel, I guess. And then she just effortlessly turns it around on them. I really love that line where they're like, look, be a lady tonight. And she's like, you lose.
Yeah.
But, you do have this sense that, they just are powerless in the face of her femininity. Yeah. It's just really, really nice.
It's interesting that we previously talked about in that episode, oh my god, Greater Good, when Xena fights barefoot, that it was like painful to watch, but here I was just like so enamored with this choice that she has no boots on or anything, and she just takes these
she
dudes
needs to go
out.
find her shoes.
Yeah, she will, don't worry. That's like her first stop. And so she busts out Theodoros and the rest of the dudes, and it's the beginning of her new army, and she's like, take that chair with you, because she wants to keep it.
I think he was like, ugh, I gotta.
He's like,
giant chair.
Gotta lug that around.
Bring it to the cave.
Why is she so into this idea of strapping Xena to the bondage chair?
You just said that sentence. Why wouldn't she be? Don't you want to do that?
I love that that's just immediately. She's not really sure what the rest of her plan is going to be, but she's like, Xena in this chair.
Yes.
For sure.
She sees
knows
that vision.
Yeah, she knows she's going to make that prison metaphor later, so she needs it.
So, after that, someone's sneaking up on Xena and Gabrielle at night.
It's got to be Callisto with that bondage chair.
Yeah, she just busted out of jail, so she's totally going to get them right now. I loved how it's like, again, one shot, like POV of the creeper, and you see like the camera kind of swish past sleeping Gabrielle, and then there's like, oops, there's standing up Xena, and her foot is in your face.
Yeah, just like waiting.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it's revealed that that's Perdicus.
Her reaction to Perdicus being there is very funny. You feel like she does not regret almost kicking him in the face. It's like, all right, fine.
I was really impressed with that entire scene. Lucy had that foot in his face, like camera level. Like that's hardcore.
That's true. Badass.
And Perd has this amazing line because they're like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I just had to see something." What? Your face, Perd.
That's such a, I don't know, a little stalkery.
It's
for
more
me.
of like a teenage boy pickup line or something, like Valentine.
AKA stalkery.
AKA, I guess that's what he is.
It's if you can imagine Edward from Twilight saying it, then it's,
Oh
it's
no.
not good.
Oh boy. So Perd just like comes up to them in the middle of the night, haven't seen them in a while, and the first thing he's like, Gabrielle, will you marry me?
Yeah.
And that's pretty intense.
It's really intense. Like, slow down. What?
This is like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
He just appears.
He found them in the shrubbery.
Yeah.
And is like, marry me.
Yep. So,
I love that Gabs immediately turns to Xena.
Yeah.
Like, that's her
It's like,
first
help
stop.
me.
if you look at Xena's face during that whole scene,
It's
it's
good.
kind of heartbreaking.
It's really good.
Because
Yeah.
she knows.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's still not regretting almost kicking him in the face.
And so Perd in this campfire scene kind of reveals his whole issue and like why this is happening.
This campfire scene must be a deliberate echoing of the campfire scene in Callisto.
As all campfire scenes are.
But I mean, this idea of like Gabrielle sort of listening to a confession,
Yeah.
and a very similar confession that he's responsible for the deaths of
Yeah.
innocent people.
Yep.
He's haunted by it. Turns out he tried to commit suicide. It's
Yeah.
a very intense speech.
Yeah, and of course, it's literally a parallel of everything that Xena has gone through, which these two are paralleled many times in this episode, and that's really cool. I never really thought of that, so I was like, all right, cool, depth to Perd.
I mean, Perd looked at the situation and said, how can I turn myself into someone Gabrielle could love? There's Xena! Oh, I see.
And meanwhile, he is hitting upon everything that Gabrielle ever wants in a partner, this is her thing, which is a troubled warrior with PTSD. That's her type.
Yeah.
So,
Someone she's a caretaker. This is someone she can take care of.
yeah, and she needs to be needed.
Yeah.
So he really needs her. And that
He
face.
really needs her. I love this choice.
Yeah.
I love that you're taking Perd, who was this, the sweet high school boyfriend, and kind of giving him almost like Gabrielle's arc, but in miniature. That he is traumatized by this life of violence. This episode is like a tough proposition because you kind of have to believe that Gabrielle would marry somebody in the course of just like
2 seconds.
a few minutes of screen time. But I think by making it Perd, who, obviously they have a long history, and by giving him this particular emotional journey, it's like, this is Gabrielle's romantic kryptonite. She would go for this, and I think I don't question it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, of course.
I
He's
do
gonna
like
marry this guy.
Yeah, but I do like how she first is like, well, no, because
Yeah.
that's a crazy thing that he just came up
She's
and
very
asked.
hesitant, and
Yeah.
it takes a big thing to happen in front of her face for her to change her mind. And she even, at this point, she's in tune, like, with herself. She doesn't think that she's the person that he thinks she is anymore,
Right.
and
I love
she's not.
that she
you know
says,
what I mean?
I fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
it's showing that she isn't, she knows she isn't that sweet, innocent person. She's already lived through some difficult things in her life and has, sort of made compromises. So, yeah, I really loved that. I felt like this episode feels significant, like, in Gabrielle's arc even before Perd's death.
Right. So the key here is that he says, but you'd never kill. And that's literally the key to this whole episode.
It is.
And then she's like, excuse me, and then goes on to talk to Xena.
And then Perd dissolves into Joxer.
Oh, right. Yeah, so Joxer's back, but this is kind of going against sequel rules. There's less of him, I feel like. than
Well,
the first
sequel
episode.
rules are you look at your original, say, what worked here? What can we do again better? And what didn't work here? And what can we
Well, that's
minimize?
not stopping that from the rest of the show.
Well, I think especially because this episode, even more so than Callisto, is not meant to be fun. You almost don't want too much of a comic relief because this really is an episode where things are hard for everyone. And I think if Joxer had been a larger part of things, it would actually be deflating some of that tension.
Up to this point, maybe this is the darkest episode of Xena.
I think so.
Like,
So good.
this
That's
is not,
what's
this
so
is
good.
like, yeah. Even
Some
compared
good
to
shit.
Callisto.
Oh, yeah.
Even
This
compared
is
to
way
the stuff
darker.
that...
It's nightmarish, yeah, because, I mean, even when things got rough in Callisto, you knew that Gabrielle was there to be the moral center. She has her, her famous line, "Promise me you won't become a monster."
Yeah.
And you feel like, well, as long as Gabrielle's there to keep Xena honest, everything is fine. But here...
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, we were talking about Joxer.
Yes. Meanwhile, Joxer is splitting barrels, like, with some kids, and then, don't even bother explaining what's happening. Callisto busts in, and she basically is like, deliver this message to Xena. You should have killed me when you had the chance. For every drop of innocent blood I shed from here on out is on your hands as well as mine.
This is a very significant line.
Mm-hmm.
I think Callisto is almost declaring to us that she is the embodiment of Xena's murderous id. So when she kills Perdicus, that's Xena killing Perdicus.
Holy
which
shit.
Xena on some level wants to do.
I love this
So this
much.
is a really important line to take note of. Because
Yeah.
on some level, this is Callisto giving Xena exactly what she wants, even if she could never admit it to herself.
Love it. Cutting back to Xena, Gabrielle, and Perdicus, they're walking on this beautiful, like, next to this beautiful sand dune and this, like, little river, and Perdicus is walking ahead as if he can't hear anything that they're saying. And basically Xena's like, so what are you going to do, girl? Are you going to marry him or what? And Gab's like, well, that's crazy. Of course I'm going to say no, but he's so wonderful, isn't he? Isn't he just, like, amazing?
That line where she's like, I feel so comfortable around him. He's the only person besides you, Xena.
yeah.
She's forgotten David and
Floppy hair,
Talus.
Talus, and yeah.
They're all crying, all the many boyfriends of the week.
She's like, he's sensitive and kind.
Perd is the best of the boyfriends of the week.
Yeah, and I love that they have this history. So it is the most believable. Like, if she was going to do something heterosexual, it would be with this guy that she grew up with.
I remember when we were reading about, I believe it was Chariots of War, the second episode, there was talk of making that guy, the warlord's son, this character, that they would bring him back to marry Gabrielle, which is just almost... I can't believe that was ever something.
Now, is this when this episode was supposed to be 3 parts? They were going to do an entire first part of Gabrielle falling in love with a man, and then they were going to kill him in the next part. And then, obviously, that didn't happen in the sense that they needed to do 1 episode. So they were like, well, who could be believable enough for her to jump to marriage? And it's Perdicus, which was the smartest choice, honestly.
I mean, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I don't need this to be 2 parts. I think if you had made this story into 2 parts, it would just be much more predictable. You would meet this wonderful guy, all the while knowing that you have Callisto running around swearing vengeance, and you just know this guy has a death mark on his forehead.
How many times have we seen that? Well, literally on Hercules, with any woman he's with gets murdered, and he's like, no, again.
Fridge,
and,
more
yeah,
dudes.
Yeah, exactly. This is, you see this constantly with male heroes and their women that they meet, and they're constantly fridge.
Yeah, you just know it's going to happen, and that makes it... you can't care about this character if you know they're not long for this world. I think this episode, by compressing that story into really half an episode, it doesn't exactly make it unpredictable, but it makes it so that the intense, fatalistic inevitability of this plot is sort of the point. You know it's going to end badly. It feels...
And you want to get there fast. Like, you don't want to see a love relationship romance blooming between Gabrielle and whatever. You want to see that scene where she's like, teach me how to kill Xena. Like, that's what you want. And,
that's the real sex scene of the episode.
Oh, God.
We'll talk about it.
Talk about there.
Oh, gosh. So Joxer runs up, and he's like, Xena. And I love this, because Xena... Oh, you know what? No, I skipped over a really important thing, which is Xena, because she's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to marry him? And Gabriella's like, no, of course not. And Xena's like... Seeing you happy will make me happy. So she's like, if you want to marry him, that's totally fine with me.
Which is the most, loving, selfless thing you could do for a person that you are in love with.
She's a very good friend.
Yeah. It's like when she went to the Bard school. She's like, if you want to do this, it's totally cool, even though it means you're going to leave me for 5 years.
Which is why, having Callisto there as her murderous id is so great. She can be the nicest, most supportive friend because all her darkest urges are, like, personified elsewhere.
So Jax runs up and he's like, Xena. And I love how she eye rolls hard.
So hard, like her eyes are going to fall out.
But then he's like, oops, it's Callisto. And she's immediately like, oh, shit.
So she goes to this village that is under attack by Callisto. It's a very close restaging of the opening scene from the episode Callisto.
Yeah. And you have another small child in peril. This time it's a girl. This time it's more obviously a reference to either baby Xena or baby Callisto.
She looks like Xena. She has the long dark hair, but I thought the color palette of her little peasant outfit was very Gabrielle. It's like the peasant blue and the red from early Gabrielle.
Oh.
I read on Jackson Upperco's site that there was like this great little meeting between TJ and the costume designer, and they had a lot.
Nigella from Lord of the Rings.
Oh yeah, so they had a lot to say about that little girl's costume. I mean, it was more about like making her socks look more like Xena and Callisto's boots and things like that.
Oh, cool.
But like, yeah.
See, that just goes to show that when we do these deep readings into these minor characters, it's deliberate on the part of the, amazing costume designers and directors.
Yeah.
They really think about everything.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this scene is amazing, obviously, because you have Callisto running wild. She's about to stab, like, an innocent person, and oops, her sword, it's literally, like, busted out of her arms by the chakram. The chakram is caught, this time not by her. It's by Xena. And you have the literal mirror of that amazing opening of Callisto.
Good sequel.
So you see Callisto through that chakram.
So this time Xena has Callisto caught in the ring of the chakram. Do you think that means that Xena is in power? She's on top this episode?
I think you're supposed to assume, because Callisto's just fresh out of prison. She's starting up again,
And you feel that, in Callisto had the element of surprise, but this time Xena sort of has her number in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and if you can believe it, their reunion here is even gayer than it was before, because Callisto's all
my sweet.
Yeah,
she calls her my sweet.
Pretty.
Oh,
like,
geez.
It's just.
She like blows her a kiss in this.
She blows her a kiss. She walks up super in slow mo, like hot, with a dagger, and so she's gonna throw. She sees a little girl. She's gonna throw the dagger at the little girl, and of course she knows Xena will go and catch it, and she does. But she gets the upper hand on her, obviously, because of this action, holds a sword to her face. I love that the sword had a little bit of sand on it.
I did like that, too.
That was, like, a TJ thing. Like, he was like, okay, can we just dip it in the dirt a little bit? Like, because you don't want it just, like, a regular
beautiful,
sword.
Clean
sword.
sword.
You want it
dirty.
to be real.
Meanwhile, Perd and Gabs are fighting off, I guess, members of Callisto's army.
Yeah, so that's like, the fight lasted a really long time because it's now nighttime. Perd, of course, kills another man. Oh no. And he just loses it, man. He just like throws the sword down and that's it. Gabs is in danger and Xena's like, Perd, you gonna do anything? No. So she's like the one who has to save Gabs. And Gabrielle like runs over to Perd and nobody's attacking them.
No.
They have this lovely scene
They have a nice bubble in the middle of the fight. To have a drama.
Drama talk. And Perd is like, that's it. He is done with fighting forever.
And this is what it takes to make Gabrielle say that she's going to marry him.
Yep.
Why? Why does she change her mind because of this? I almost wondered if she was marrying him because he was retiring from being a warrior. She wanted to make the same decision he was making. She wanted to give it up.
Did she?
I don't know. I mean, one of the many things I like about this episode is because this huge story is jammed into 40 minutes of screen time, there's a lot of these almost like elliptical decision-making moments where you don't entirely understand why the characters are doing what they're doing, which I think adds a certain ambiguity to it that I really like. I don't know why Gabrielle chooses Perd in this moment.
I know she cares for him a lot, so like seeing him this way is different than hearing it. Might have like shook something in her that made her want to take care of him.
But is it just because he becomes a pacifist at this moment and that's what she is technically?
But
Maybe.
even earlier, she was saying, I'm not
Yeah,
quite so
but
much a
she
pacifist
clearly
at this point.
would be okay with just living a life, I guess, in a little house and not do even staff fighting.
Well, it's got to happen, guys. It's got to happen. We have got to get them married so that we can ruin it.
Yeah, so the next scene is literally a wedding. Katie, you were like, gosh, they don't even care
Listen,
about Potidia.
Why did they... Honestly, they just get married. So with some of this whatever elliptical storytelling, moving things fast makes no sense because you would think they would go home to their families and get married in Potidia.
Yeah.
There's another instance later that where you would think again that they would go home, but they don't. So they just get married in front of Xena and Jox.
Yeah.
Maybe they couldn't get Lila back for this episode.
That requires an entire act, if not more,
Right.
traveling
exactly.
to Potidia,
This is the
set in
two-parter. The
Potidia.
two-parter of this, they would
Yeah.
have gone back to Potidia
For sure,
and
for
gotten
sure.
married at home.
I can see it being immensely symbolic to have Perd killed in Potidia,
Sure.
in the site of the childhood home, like
man.
defiled by Callisto. Like that's
Ooh,
pretty,
I like that.
That's juicy. That would have been great.
No, not rando field.
It's a beautiful field.
Yeah.
I could see him being killed on the way, like they're going to Potidia, but then you couldn't have had their sex scene, so, because, you have
Yeah.
to be married for that.
Gotta get a lot in.
Yeah, so heterosexual experience for Gabrielle, the one and only. Let's
Nice.
discuss.
No, we're not there yet. We
No.
should talk about the wedding.
Oh, yes, I'm
mean,
sorry.
duh.
Excuse me,
Fuck.
excuse me.
How dare you? Jesus
Rewind.
Christ.
Vera's really eager to talk
I
about
just
the
wanna talk about
heterosexual.
We were talking about how it was
Sex
filmed all straight before for
Yeah.
some reason.
Oh, yeah. Was it filmed that straight, this wedding scene?
Yeah, well, it's a series. Well, I know what you mean. But, I mean, in terms of the actual filmmaking, there's none of the
Yeah, it's
crazy frame rate. There's
Yeah.
no weird swervy angles. The camera is literally straight. It's not
Yeah.
tilted. That's all I meant. That's all I meant.
Yeah, I love some little moments that happen in this scene. Pay attention to Joxer as he tries to shake Xena's hand, because Xena's not having any of it, and it's amazing.
I like Gabs' wedding look. I like her dress and her flowers.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that was another
She was
costume
nice,
designer
very
note.
innocent.
Very pure. That was like more pure Gabrielle with the flowers in the hair.
Hippie-esque.
Yeah. She changed boots. I thought that was interesting. She only
In,
has one pair.
Bittersweet, she has like a garland of flowers in her hair when she's in her
Potidia.
Potidia
look.
outfit.
Yeah.
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 So this is sort of Gab's innocence, like rendered into physical form.
Yeah.
Pretty flowers, a white dress.
So yeah, so they get married, and then Perdicus kind of goes to leave. Joxer's like, okay, I'm hanging out with Xena and Gabs. And I love that Xena goes, Joxer, take a walk. Which I think is like, from now on, like that's how it is with them. Like
Yeah.
whenever her and Gabs want to do something by the campfire at night, that's when they say, Joxer, take a walk.
Isn't there that like Ted, one
Yeah,
of the
it's like
like
an
video
interview. Yeah,
commentaries?
yeah.
What did Joxer know about
Yeah.
Xena and Gabrielle? And like he never saw anything in all of their years of traveling because they would be like, "Hey Joxer, could you like go get us some water or something
Yeah.
like the 2 miles away?" Like
And he would
go
go.
that way. And he would
He's
like
kind
go.
of the perfect third wheel because he's so oblivious.
Yeah.
Like, everything would escape his notice.
like
Yeah, that stuff does
this
for sure.
next thing.
Yeah, exactly. The perfectly normal kiss between two gal pals.
Gal pals kissing.
This scene's really sad.
It's so
Yeah,
sad.
it's amazing.
It's really sad. Before I get to how it being sad, let's just talk about how it's an amazing framing of tall and small.
Oh gosh.
Part of what
She's
makes
so
it
extra tall.
Part of what
and
makes it
extra
seem
small.
like a kind of like romantic kiss is the fact that Lucy Lawless is so tall that she has to like lean down like
Yeah.
so far to like get her on the lips that it's like just this like
Yeah.
it's not like if they were similarly heighted you could almost have it been this peck thing, but it's the leaning down that really
Yeah, it's so deliberate.
yeah,
Yeah.
very deliberate. Like, I am coming in for a smooch. But then, Xena starts talking about how Gabrielle shouldn't say goodbye to her and how, she's going to be knocking on her door so often that she's going to be sick of her.
Lies.
Lies.
Oh my god, so many lies. It's so sad.
Yeah, it's like when she left, at the prodigal. She also said silly things like that. Too.
Yeah, like in the Prodigal, it turned out that she was actually
So then
coming
there you
to
go.
Pony Dia.
She did. She probably would.
They would
Let's
have a third room
real.
in their house for
She would've-
Xena.
Like,
Well, right,
yeah, like
the thing,
Grey's
she would
Anatomy.
have come once. It would have been really awkward. They put her in the guest bedroom. She would have felt really strange the whole time. Like, Perd and Gabs would have, like, all these little couple-y in-jokes. They'd call each other schmoopy. Xena would be, like, barfing a little in her mouth all the time. And that'd be it. She'd leave, and she'd probably never come back.
What if she came there, stayed in the guest bedroom, then was like super in denial, put her feet up when she sat at the table, all good sitting, like, you know, and was like making herself the man of the house? What about that?
Yeah, and Gabs would be like, divorce, please!
Anyway.
Because she would come and talk about all her travels, and, you know, Gabs
Yeah.
would be like, oh, I miss this. So
Yeah.
it would be a good
It's
conflict.
also-
I want that fic.
Let's write the fic.
Let's do it. Yeah, I just want to say, like, before we move on that, you know, I know it's kind of like, it's not like direct on the lips. It's like half. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's almost like a cheek, but it's not, because it's like really, it's on the lips, right?
It's
so
literally the corner of the
it's
mouth.
like the corner, but it's pretty rad that this scene is on TV in
Yeah.
1996, 7.
And it's wonderful because, I mean, it is a romantic kiss.
It is,
That is
yeah.
just so... I mean, we talk about this difference between subtext and main text. I think this is main text.
Main
this
text.
is a scene about two women who are in love but can't marry. And, you know, it's a breakup scene. And that kiss is a breakup kiss. And that's awesome. That's on TV in 1997.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Gabs gives her the bouquet, and Zena's like, which is like the best.
But then she's there in the church all by herself.
I love that. Yeah. So like the last like part
temple.
of this wedding scene is a wide shot of Xena standing alone with the bouquet. So sad.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's sad. Good thing that we're gonna ruin it. Let's ruin it.
By talking about the heterosexual sex
Well,
scene.
first that happens.
Yeah, well, Gabrielle kind of talks about that shot of
Yeah.
Xena in the church alone. She's going to be all alone. She's not worried about missing Xena so much as she's worried about Xena missing her. And you feel that. And I mean, we've talked about that with the two contrasting reactions to the death scenes. The fact that Gabrielle was able to cope with Xena's death, whereas Xena just completely fell apart for Gabrielle's.
Ugh. Yeah.
I thought that the moment where they hug, like that was their last hug, you know, you see Gabrielle's face, she's like happy, sad, and then you see Xena's face, she's like devastated,
Yeah.
but only to us, to
Yeah.
the camera. That reminded me of Doctor when she, like, right after the CPR and, like, Gabs pops up and she, like, grabs her, you know, like that kind of reaction. And then she, like, lets her go and she's happy again as if, you know, puts out the face on.
Yeah, well, thinking about Xena as this Clint Eastwood-esque Western hero, you're not allowed to show vulnerability. That's a weakness. You can only glimpse it in these moments when she thinks she's not being observed.
Okay, let's talk about Gabs and Perd and that sex scene.
So like, here's Perd on his wedding night, like, you know, he's ready to have some sex
He's ready.
with his wife, right? Won't stop talking about Xena.
Get used to it, Perd.
I know, they're gonna name their daughter Xena.
I loved Gabrielle, how nervous she was. Very realistic.
I know we're making fun of it, but I genuinely
It's
thought
a good
it was
scene.
a cute scene. And,
Yeah.
and I remember when we watched this you guys watched it the first time, and you were like, we'll let her have this. We'll let her have this.
it.
Well, I actually think it's very rare and special to have a sex scene that's about sex,
Yeah.
in which the characters talk about sex. I thought that was very adult and interesting in this series, where you don't often hear sex discussed.
And Perd says that he has been having sex with ladies whilst he's fighting all these
Soldiering,
wars.
yeah.
So, like, it's like disease. And I
Katie's
was like,
worried about
"Don't
his D.
do it.
Some gonorrhea.
That worried me.
is Gabrielle's wedding
He's
present.
like, well, I'm a soldier in the war. Like, I was like, oh no!
Meanwhile, Gabrielle says she's never been with a man,
Right.
but she didn't say anything about being with women.
That's true. It was very carefully written. I can't remember if it was you, Vera, or you, Katie, but one of you said that you felt this was the most romantic.
I said that.
You said,
Yeah.
yeah, the most romantic scene in Xena in terms of the way
Well,
it's shot.
Listen, don't. Oh wait, I should have volunteered that I said that. Ostracized for that statement.
That's not what you meant. I
That's
know
not
what
what
you
I
meant.
meant. That's not
That
what I
isn't
meant.
what you meant.
I meant,
Like-
like traditionally,
Like, here's a flowy curtained sex scene.
yeah, it was a sex
Yeah,
scene,
like,
and it wasn't
not
know,
like a crazy sex scene. There
It
are a
wasn't a
few of
cra-
those
yeah.
with Caesar.
Right.
Like,
But-
about me.
Well, those
Again-
aren't romantic.
Right, but
No, exactly.
the
Yeah.
problem is that, you couldn't be explicit about, like, the true
Gabrielle,
romance.
yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Gabrielle and
Seems like
Xena,
that.
you have
Yeah.
they can only have sex via metaphor, as
Right.
we're about to
Metaphor,
see
via
later in this
hiding,
episode.
Season 6, like the one true kiss, that kind of stuff is
There's
romantic.
tons of
yeah.
like the romance is off the charts with Xena Gabrielle,
Yeah.
but not in ways that
This is a conventional,
yeah.
like, filmed sex scene. basically.
exactly.
And I mean, it's the most
But who wants
conventional,
conventional
ever. It's
sex
a
scenes?
traditional marriage. It's,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, it's exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So please don't send hate mail.
But anyway, when we talk about Gabrielle, it is interesting because you do feel like she's still just kind of figuring some stuff out.
This is what every girl in her village wanted. You know, she's
Exactly.
just had this
Yeah.
fairy tale wedding ceremony and now a fairy tale wedding night. And
She needed to at least try it. That's
Yeah.
all.
we're glad it's Perd.
And,
He's a
and
really
yeah,
nice
and I
guy.
think that she would have been fine. They would have been fine.
Maybe for a little while.
For a little
And
while.
then she'd be Carol, and she would have to have to
He
rest.
would be Harge. What? Is that
Yeah, it
his
is.
name? Yeah. I keep wanting to call him Harold because of the meme.
Oh,
I'm like, that's not
man.
his name. That's the guy from the meme. His name's
They're
Harge.
lesbians. While Gabs is being married, Xena goes and finds Theodorus and does another reunion scene with him where she does the pinch on him again.
I love that Theodorus explicitly says this is us restaging that one scene from Callisto. It's the one time in the episode where the characters kind of turn to camera and say, yes, this is a sequel to another episode. We know.
Yeah, and so he spills the beans that as soon as he told Callisto that Xena's traveling alone, Callisto's like, perfect! So Xena's like, oh shit, I better get there. The next scene is Perd and Gabrielle being kind of, now at this point I'm like a little annoyed at their lovey-doveyness.
Right. They're
P- they're
called it,
PDA.
like, post-wedding, like, nonsense.
Yeah,
And
it's literal
like-
nonsense. Gabrielle's like, love unites
Honeymoon
the
gobbledygook.
world.
Yeah, they're just making out in public, but no one's around them, obviously. It's
But
just
hey,
us,
man, the
us,
power of
we're the
love
public.
saves everything in this episode.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
be knocking it.
I'm not.
No, I mean
really-
anything that Callisto makes fun of is probably legitimately real.
So she shows up and he's like, totally like, LOL, you guys suck. Perd is like, we're unarmed. What do you want?
I love that. That was such a perfectly written line for a soldier.
Yeah.
He's used to the rules of combat being something very specific
Honor.
that like Callisto does not honor at all. Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, that line made me so uncomfortable because they live in vague ancient times and you cannot be unarmed in these times. It's just kind of crazy.
But they're just like villagers.
yeah,
now,
but like they
you
should
know.
have at least he should have a club, something, you know.
Well, I think that goes with them.
This is
being
what happens.
They're on their honeymoon, you know, spouting nonsense about love uniting the world. This is the one moment in their lives where they wouldn't carry weapons.
They're traveling. They should have something.
Also, Perd has just very explicitly thrown down the sword and been
Yeah.
like, never again.
And he's wearing this like virginal white shirt that if they could show more blood on would have so much more blood on it. And Callisto slashes his arm, he's thrown to the side, and she goes after her main kill, which is Gabrielle. She totally kicks her in the face, which was like, really upsetting. And she's looming over her, about to
Yeah,
do
raises
it.
the sword over her
Yeah.
head, one of those.
Epic. And in comes Xena.
Which is just how Callisto wants it. She needs Xena to be there to witness it.
That's the only audience it would work on, really. Like, she would appreciate that the most.
She says, I long to see you wailing over the body of your friend. Xena's like, well, it's not going to happen. And Callisto just like goes, hmm? Which I thought was really funny. She's like, you can't do one-liners on me. My response is just like, come again?
So at this exact moment, Perd decides to stumble out in front of Callisto. And of course, she runs her sword through him. And that's where she's like, that'll do.
Right.
And she like GTFOs out of there. Perd's dead.
He's dead.
But I thought he was stabbed and that, for instance, Xena should attempt to fix him
No,
or
he's
like
dead.
work on him a little bit.
He's dead.
She just happens to just not do anything.
Because on some level,
Yeah.
she wanted
Oh,
this.
He's dead.
I think it's very specific that she doesn't try to do anything here. And I know, like, yeah, he's dead, but if this was like, let's say, Gabrielle, she would attempt to do stuff,
Sure.
as we literally saw her do in Doctor, but she does nothing. And Gabrielle's really sad and cries purred a lot.
Good yelling.
There's a lot of extreme close-ups on the face.
sad.
By the way, that's like a thing throughout this whole episode. Like
Extreme
super
close-ups.
TJ doing
Almost
that.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then the next scene is really amazing. They're burning Perdicus. Is that the other moment, Katie?
Fucking take him home. What?
Yeah.
They just burned him together. Take him back to his family. What's happening? Go
Yeah.
back to Potadia. It's like Potadia doesn't exist. Anyway, whatever. Who cares?
And it's Xena is doing her singing there.
Yeah, her
Beautiful.
same funeral song that she sang for Marcus.
That's another amazing moment with extreme close-ups on Gabrielle's face, and you can see the tear.
The like mise en scène
Yeah.
of that close-up of Gabrielle. You have the fire behind her, which is Callisto's
That's what I was
element.
just about to say. I was like, anything with like some fiery flames behind some anger is going to be awesome.
But also really wonderful in that close-up of Gabrielle is that you just have the point of her weapon that she's holding in the shot with her the entire
Okay.
time. Just the point
That's
of
nice.
it.
Yeah.
And like my question, and you were echoing this when we were watching it, is where did that
Yeah.
weapon come from? What is that?
That's-
Whose is it?
It's beautiful, but it is maybe a mistake.
I kind of love it. I love the symbolism of the fact that this happens to Gabrielle and then just suddenly she's holding a sword with no explanation. It's like, if this happens to you, a sword just appears in your hand. Like your anger just creates one.
I wonder if it's something that they cut out, like
Oh,
where
maybe.
it came from. Because we were like, oh, it's Perd's sword, but he doesn't have a sword. He already threw it out. We saw it. Oh, it's Callisto's sword. Nope, she definitely put it in her shaft on her back. Because I'm like, dang, they put those swords away so fast. I for sure took note of that.
Maybe there was a whole scene where she went back to that weapons dealer from Dreamworker.
The breast dagger
The
guy?
one where she couldn't even hold the sword, it was so heavy. And she was like, I'll take this one. The like biggest sword in the place. Just like holds it with one hand going like, this one!
I don't know, because then she could have visited Potadia. It was like right next door. Well, the important thing is what happens when the sun rises, which is now Gabrielle wants revenge.
She says, all I want on my hands is Callisto's blood. This is the last one, or meaning, the last time I have blood on my hands that I didn't spill, I think. Oh my god.
Xena's just not happy to hear that, that's for sure.
That's, clearly echoing something probably Xena herself said many years ago, so that must be a horrible thing to re-experience for her.
So the sun rises and you have the legit Robb Stark moment with Gabrielle, because you have the tree, you have the beautiful sun behind it, and you have her on the right side of the frame, smashing away that tree with a sword now, and Xena comes up on the left side, like Catelyn Stark. And it's really
So, this
upsetting.
is a reference first to Dreamworker, where
Yeah.
she was play fighting with a tree stump, and then to Greater Good, where she was having a grief session with a tree.
Yeah.
And now this final, much more purposeful fight.
This scene may be like top 5
Oh, absolutely.
of the whole series.
Top 5 for high up there.
She wants Xena's teacher how to kill Callisto, because that's all she wants.
Yeah. I really like the TV trope name for what's going on here.
Ooh, what is it?
Which is called Break the Cutie.
Oh!
Referencing characters who start out as these innocent, really nice comic relief characters who then the show proceeds to dump torment upon.
Willow from
Wesley.
Buffy.
Wesley
And
also.
Wesley, yeah. So this is really a Jossian.
If you
Giving
want
him all the
TV
credit.
tropes and lists.
Well, no, I'm not giving him the credit because Xena did it first.
That's
Among
the
others.
subtitle of our podcast.
Xena did it first.
Except for the other things that did it before.
Yeah,
Xena.
exactly.
But I don't know. I just break the cutie. It makes me but it gets at the heart of why stuff like this is so upsetting, because it's Gabrielle.
Let's talk a million years about this scene.
Uh-huh.
I love how it's filmed. Let's talk about that first. It's low angles on both of them. Usually that makes the character in the scene powerful. So for Gabrielle, sure, that works. That's really great. She's trying to become literally more powerful to be able to kill Callisto. Xena, meanwhile, in her reverse shot, yeah, you have that thigh. It's super powerful. But, her acting is just the opposite. She is just suffering through this. She doesn't want any part of this. And she's being forced to do this. And it's just amazing. It's like, oh my God, I can't with how good it is.
Teach me. Teach me. Teach me.
Now you're going to talk about how this is the sex scene?
It's a sex scene. It is a sex scene.
The penetration with the...
Yeah,
with
she's
the sword.
jabbing her with the point of the sword. It's very physical. You hear that leather creaking as the sword pokes it. Again!
Yeah. Well, Xena first refuses to do it. And Gabrielle, she like smashes the sword against the tree. There's like a crazy drum echo to elevate that moment. And I mean, she has a good point. She's like, at least teach me how to defend myself with the sword, because like then she'll have a fighting chance. Because Xena never taught her the sword. So Xena's like, all right, fine, pick it up. And explains a little bit about sword rules, about how you have to like look people in the eye to
how it's different from a stab.
Yeah, it's very different from a
explicitly
stab.
kind of saying, you know, you were doing this defensive style, this is aggression.
Yeah, exactly. And they sort of begin with Gabrielle attacking, and that's where you get the teach me, and like intensity. I loved Gabrielle's line, the little innocent Gabrielle is dead and there's no getting her back.
Ugh.
Which is a callback to Remember Nothing. Like, that's Xena just experienced this. She literally destroyed that entire world to prevent this from happening.
And here it is happening anyway.
And she can't, like, this is not something that she has the power to change via fates and whatever. Like, this is literally happening. Oh my God, it's so good.
She says love is helpless in the face of cruelty. You know, the exact opposite of all of her, everything she's ever said really about love and forgiveness. But particularly referencing, I think, her newlywed nonsense that Callisto made fun of. So she's saying things that Callisto herself said. She's becoming Callisto before Xena's eyes.
Yeah, maybe, like, the scene would have been okay for Xena if Gabrielle wasn't doing the whole thing with lines like, teach me how to kill her, Xena. Like, maybe if it was just, like, practice on how to do the sword.
I wonder if on some level Gabrielle is kind of conscious of the way this request is affecting Xena, and it's her punishing Xena for everything. Xena, to a certain extent, is responsible for Perd's death.
This is the biggest thing that Xena has done to affect Gabrielle's life so far.
On some level, Gabs must know that this is the ultimate way of tormenting Xena, and she wants Xena to be in pain the way she's experiencing pain right now. So it's actually very deliberate on Gabrielle's part that she's saying these things. Even, I'm sure they're true, but...
Well, you're talking about experiencing life in all its agonizing glory, and the next scene is this amazing party that Callisto is throwing.
I feel this cut between the scene that we've kind of discussed as a sex scene between Xena and Gabrielle to this slightly orgiastic, Callisto's men. Like, I feel like that cut was saying, yes, you've just watched a sex scene. Like, this was sex.
Sure, I like it. This is a party at Callisto's cave, and everyone's drinking and dancing in what their version of the club. And Theodorus comes and offers Callisto a drink, and she refuses.
And he says, like, for my queen.
Right.
Yeah,
He's had a
few. In this scene, and her thoughts on alcohol and sex too, right? Like, Callisto is not interested in any of those things. Sex for Callisto is something else entirely.
Yeah.
If we're going to come across.
Right. We kind of mentioned this in Callisto the episode, but here's where it is revealed within the show. She says, love is a trick that nature plays to get us to reproduce. I want no part of it. So she, like, refuses a drink, and she's like, Theodorus, you're not falling in love with me, are you? And he's like, and what if I was? And she's like, then I'd have to kill you. Because, as we previously mentioned, the only eyes she has is for Xena.
He is not her type.
No.
But it does seem like, very excellent thematic storytelling that we have in the same episode where Gabrielle is getting married and kind of choosing a heterosexual life mate. You have Callisto saying, that's a trick. I want no part of it. And also, you've just had this scene between Xena and Gabrielle, which is extremely emotionally intense and very much a scene about lovers punishing each other.
But I also just really love that she doesn't drink alcohol or anything other than, like, I guess, water. She gotta stay hydrated. It's important, guys. It's important. All those flips.
She's almost like a monk. She doesn't pollute her body with any of these things. Revenge is it. That's her entire way of life.
I feel like there's many villains scattered throughout like the history of cinema and TV and stuff that you do come across this type that like doesn't partake in stuff like that. Idris Elba from The Wire. I don't know, it's just really cool when it happens because it's unexpected. Like you would think if you're like the big boss, like you're partying.
And because there's something, you know, particularly with Callisto, she's so uninhibited. And usually when you have a character like that, you would think, that she'd be fucking everyone. And that she'd be drinking left and right. And
totally.
like, that's part of the lifestyle. And the fact that she's actually quite controlled about those things.
Right. But again, that's like opposite Xena, because Xena was doing literally all of those things. It's amazing.
When she was a warlord, yeah.
We'll get to that soon.
Yeah.
The next scene is also amazing, which is Xena having a little moment by herself to pray.
Xena doesn't pray, typically.
Yeah, this is the first time we're seeing this kind of thing. Like, we've seen her do her, like, soliloquies to either the sarcophagus of her brother or,
that was to a person.
Yeah. But, like, that's the closest thing that you've seen.
She speaks to the dead. Yeah. She was just doing it with Goliath.
Okay, not the same.
I'm sorry for bringing that up.
not the same.
It's a different thing.
Yeah. She's asking for help, which again is something you never see Xena helpless. That is such a rare
this is the first
moment.
time.
Well, in Doctor in the House.
But she didn't pray.
She didn't get a chance to pray, but on some level she was praying. She was praying for Gabrielle to wake up, to live.
Well, this is a very specific thing that she does throughout the series, less than a handful of times, but every time it's kind of amazing. She takes a knee. I love that close-up of like the sword going down, and it's kind of like a knighting.
Who is she praying to?
Well, it's definitely not the Greek gods. Because like
she knows them.
She knows them. Like, she talks to them face to face. Like, fucking Ares annoys her all the time.
Yeah.
Like,
she would not ask him for anything.
It's not that.
Yeah.
It's like bigger than that. I mean, you already had the introduction of like altered states.
So is she praying to the one god?
Maybe, or like just not the Greek ones.
It's just to anyone who will listen.
Yeah, anything
that's
that would
what it feels like
help
to
her
me.
out.
Just
For
whoever is listening.
Yeah, and so in this moonlight, you know, she goes, "Don't let the light that shines out of Gabrielle's face go out. I couldn't stand the darkness that would follow." And that's such a wonderful line, unless taken literally.
I mean, she doesn't have light shining out of her face.
Do you remember
Metaphorical light.
Do you remember that line from Buffy that was like that?
Yeah. I've always wanted to, like, I forget what it is exactly, but the crux of it is to, like, take your heart and warm it with my own.
Yeah.
And Buffy's like, that's so beautiful. Or taken literally, incredibly gross.
So, yeah, that's
just pictured, like, Gabs with, like, a flashlight face.
Yeah!
Beams coming out of her eyes. Whoa.
But it is wonderful.
Like an iPhone.
Yeah. It is a really good.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Beautiful line. And Gabrielle actually kind of does creep up and see.
She hears it.
She hears it.
Yeah, I thought that was a great narrative trick because you see Gabrielle overhear that and you think, oh, this is finally gonna drill some sense into her because she's seeing Xena pray. She totally knows how singular a moment that is. Xena does not pray, and maybe that will bring home to her the fact that what she's doing is not who she is. So in the next scene when she says, yeah, Xena, I'm going home to grieve, for maybe 2 seconds, I believed her and thought it was.
And Xena did too. She's like, "Oh, great! That's a great idea."
And Gabrielle's like, "I'm gonna leave now.
And
Bye."
she's like, "Oh, that's weird. It's 2 a.m.
Why are you taking that sword home?"
But it does ultimately sink in, just not right then.
Yeah. I think it was very important that she witnessed this. She knows that if her doing this brings Xena to the point where she's praying, that's how desperate a situation it is for Xena.
The next thing is one of the best ever graphic matches in the show.
Oh, yeah?
Because you go moon to sun to chakram. It's perfect. Although, when you think about it, TJ was like, okay, Lucy, hold the chakram. Hold it. All right, and action. All right, we got it. Why is she holding the chakram that way? There was no reason for it.
Oh my god, it's for arts. That's the best reason.
Oh, we didn't talk about how, like, Xena's like, oh, they're having a party. They're going to be all passed out. Let's wait until dawn. That's when we're going to get her. So Gabrielle sneaks in and literally gets her sword to Callisto's throat. For sure, 100% could kill her
if she wanted to.
I think Callisto is pretending.
I don't, because she literally wakes up like with a jolt And
I think it was too dramatic a jolt. It was the jolt of a woman pretending to jolt.
I don't know what to think of that moment. There's no fucking way that Gabrielle could sneak up on Callisto.
And all of her men. They're all passed out.
But they could be. Like, Theodorus, like, wakes up. But, you know, we know they were drinking.
Yeah.
But, like,
She
Callisto, like, is she a
She's
deep
just
sleeper?
sitting
We
in
don't
her
know.
ultra uncomfortable bondage chair.
Maybe it's, like, really uncomfortable to sleep in. She would have to wake
So
up
you think she's just
real
sitting there
fast.
pretending while Gabrielle's having a crisis of conscience?
When Callisto wakes up, she says, I don't understand you. In a surprised way. She thought she did understand her. She thought she would come in and kill Callisto. And in killing her, that would kill Xena's soul, which is what Callisto says she wants.
Okay.
I think Callisto is inviting this. We
Sure.
know that Callisto is totally into the idea of Xena killing her. And I think in this moment, she's into the idea of Gabs doing it.
But she only says, I don't understand you, because Gabrielle does not follow through.
Right.
But I think up till that moment,
She has
Callisto's
flashbacks.
hoping
Yeah,
she
has
will.
flashbacks.
Like, she's going on the understanding that, oh, you know, I just did something terrible to you. What does that do to people? It makes them into killers.
Gabrielle can't do it, as we discussed, because she has her flashbacks of all the important moments so far. Katie's doing a little jiggle because she loves it so much.
Yes.
And
Are you happy with there being flashbacks there? Do you think they
I
work?
never like flashbacks
I don't like them
to
either.
include it either. You
You know,
understand.
you
Like,
saw
you know
that
it.
she saw Xena praying.
Yeah, she literally just
You don't
saw
need
that
to
flashback.
see her see Xena praying.
Of the flashbacks they use, the one that works best is the one from Callisto.
Yeah,
just
of
because
course.
it's always moving to see something that you haven't seen in a while.
The one where she says to Xena, promise me you won't become a monster.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you know, just different enough. Like, just, you know, the
And
fact that she's saying
referencing
it
the
to-
original
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
sequel.
Right, which is nice.
Yeah.
Like, I could kind of see just that one. But
Yeah.
the fact that it has to, like,
There's
flashback
three.
to things we just saw in
Yeah.
the episode.
Like
I
literally
hate.
2 seconds
A
ago.
flashback to the same episode is usually pretty egregious
Yeah.
whenever you do it because you just saw it.
Well,
but, you
it
know,
happened. It made her drop
whatever.
the sword.
Yeah.
And Callisto captures her and intends to burn her, like a witch burning type of situation.
And here Callisto says something which totally goes with my interpretation of her as this stage manager, where she says, I'm going to make a grand show of your death, and I'll need an audience who will truly appreciate it. In the Callisto, she basically staged that final climax on what looked like a proscenium arch. Here, she is quite explicitly saying, I'm going to arrange all of the actors in my show, so we'll be ready when Xena comes. And she places those chariots outside the cave mouth. She's just ready to go.
Those were there already, but I do like how she's forced to improvise a lot in this one, and I like that a lot because unlike Callisto, where she had it all planned to like a T, here everything is basically an improv. Xena messes with her plans a lot in this one.
Callisto's the perfect improviser because no matter what happens, she wins on some level.
But even
she's
the
happy
last
with
moment,
everything.
she assumed one thing and didn't happen.
Yeah,
It's
but
very
she's cool with the other.
She's cool with the
alternative.
other, yeah, except not really because further episodes.
That's
but
true.
whatever.
But
whatever.
at this point,
Not
where
yet,
she
not
is,
yet.
we're not there yet.
So I can't actually remember. Does Xena come in next?
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of a hostage thing. She has Gabrielle hostage, and because she has Gabrielle, Xena surrenders and gets put in the bondage chair.
Right, yeah. So basically, like, I mean, the whole episode is leading up to Xena being in the bondage chair.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Gabrielle's going to be burned. How are they going to get out of this? I don't know. Callisto is fondling the chakram again.
Should we talk very quickly about the symbolism of Callisto burning Gabrielle?
What's the symbolism?
Well, the same way her family was burned.
Oh, okay. I mean, I didn't see it quite the same because it's like, again, I think witches when it's like a tied up woman being burned.
That's true. So you think she's burning her
if
as
she
a
threw
witch?
her in a house and then burned her.
Well, we know how much Callisto and fire
Yeah,
is a thing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Is it scene when Callisto refers to Gabrielle as the friendship of your life?
Oh, that was funny.
The
friendship
most
of your
awkward
life.
phrase.
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
Like, what now? Oh,
And
man.
especially in an episode where you keep talking about love,
Yeah.
it's said all the time.
It's like they haven't gotten to that point where they start using soulmates.
Yeah, not yet.
So that's what it had to be, the friendship of your life.
Well, we
she
got
also wonders in the scene if she could have been pure.
She could
Like
have been
Gabrielle's
like
just
her,
jealous of Gabrielle being able to like leave the world so pure. What would have Callisto been had it not been for Xena?
Yeah, it's interesting because there's so much of these identity games played with Callisto and Xena that there are these two sides of a coin. I think it's interesting to extend that game to include Gabrielle, but on some level, Gabrielle is also a mirror for Callisto.
And whenever Callisto does go off and reminisce about, oh, could this have been her? If Xena didn't burn her entire family, like, would this be how she is now? Blah, blah, blah. She has these one-offs all the time, and I feel like they just come out unintentionally from her. Like, I don't think she thinks about it, but it just comes out, and I think that's really powerful.
There's this really cool shot in the sequence where you have Xena strapped to the bondage chair and Callisto in the foreground in profile, and it's a very destabilizing shot because they're both in focus. They're both sharp. Usually if you'd have a shot like this, like Callisto's so close to the camera that Xena would be out of focus. And we talked a lot last time in Callisto about what I call a rack focus, which is that camera effect where the camera changes focus in the middle of the shot. This time, rather than doing that, they have both of them in focus, and they do that with this special device called the split field diopter that you attach to a camera lens that allows your lens to be split between two different focal lengths. So that way you get to have both people in the shot. And this just looks almost like an optical illusion. It's very dreamlike. I think a cool choice by TJ to make this feel really, really nightmarish, this moment.
It's certainly the first time I've noticed it on this show. I think previously mentioned American Horror Story Coven utilized this technique quite a bit.
Hannibal uses it too.
Oh boy. Brian De Palma.
Yes,
right?
Brian De Palma is
Constantly
famous for using the
uses it.
split field diopter.
Well, it's cool. I liked seeing that here. Well, Joxer comes in.
Joxer.
And he tries to save...
He does the helping.
Yeah. So, really quick, Joxer this episode was actually pretty good. He wasn't annoying. He was actually like a good addition. His scenes were a little bit deeper. He had human reactions, not hilarious comic stupid shit that he usually does. Like, his reactions were legit. I think you were like,
He wants to help.
yeah, he wants to help, and then Xena's like, no, you stay out of it or whatever. He comes in here and he distracts Callisto's crew and he gets arrowed, but Xena is able to grab the chakram from Callisto's belt, which I feel like Callisto would totally feel that shit. And also, everybody would see it on her foot for like 5 minutes.
I'm telling you, Callisto lets these things happen. This was all just part of Callisto wanting Xena out of the bondage chair. As much as she liked her in it, I feel like the pleasure of putting her into that chair is to see her break out of it.
Well, a lot of Callisto, right, is what does she really want, and if she gets what she wants, is it actually going to make her happy, right?
Yes, absolutely.
She has a really weird line about the bondage chair to Xena, where she says,
It's the prison metaphor.
"It will give you peace if you'll let it." Which I was like, did the bondage chair give you peace, Callisto?
Is it about, like, embracing her own
Confinement,
prison?
passivity. Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. It was a strange line, a strange moment. Doesn't quite
I
go
wish
with
she tried to
Callisto.
feed her gruel, but she didn't.
with a pizza.
That's how I do it.
But Xena breaks out, and Callisto, this is probably what she wanted, always to happen.
Oh, how I do love watching you work.
Yeah, thanks for making it text, Callisto. We got that subtext already. She sees how Xena is able to break out herself, and also how to free Gabrielle, and she's definitely loving every single moment of it, a la callbacks to the ladder fight. She really put her in conundrum and just loved seeing how she fixed the situation.
I like that you compared this to the ladder fight, because I was definitely thinking, if we're talking about Return of Callisto as a sequel to Callisto, this is the ladder fight of Return of Callisto. And you were criticizing the ladder fight because you didn't think it was a satisfying enough climax, that it wasn't intimate enough. They've listened to your criticism, and they've moved that sequence earlier in the episode, so it's no longer the climax.
Right, and it's a little bit more intimate for sure. I mean, it doesn't have so much contraptions spinning around and whatever. It's like Xena has to break out of the chair.
More bondage, less nonsense.
Yep.
Chariot
That's how I
racing.
like it. Yeah, and so...
and instead we move into the chariot race, which is clearly the equivalent of the horseback chase in Callisto, which you really loved and felt was the true climax of the episode.
We have different feelings about a chariot.
I mean, chariots are not my fave, but
Is it because they're just kind of like an awkward...
The scene becomes about the chariot. I loved the intimacy of Xena, Callisto, and the horses. Right. Especially one of the horses was Argo. 3 characters we know, right?
Here they're kind of like Mad Maxing with like spikes
and
on
it's
chariots.
Like Callisto has like a crazy spike on her wheel so that she's constantly trying to like break Xena's chariot wheel.
Once Xena jumps off, it's great.
It's all right. Yeah,
I mean, she's being dragged through the sand.
It's cool. Like this is how you up the original. Yeah. This is sequel rules.
Exactly.
So it had to happen.
It's pretty spectacular.
It's all right. It's not. I really don't. It's not as spectacular.
You are a harsh critic. When
Watch
we were talking about
Callisto, there's a nice rainbow in one of the shots.
And also they have a sunset like silhouette
really
shot
beautiful.
for one of the shots too. I'm not saying that's ugly. No, it's awesome.
I'm glad you're not saying it's ugly.
But I'm just saying, watch that original scene from Callisto with the horse chase. It is just epic.
Oh my god, so we need to cut together Vera's ultimate Callisto episode.
You know what was funny to me watching the scene was there's a part in it where there's a dirt splash on the lens.
Yes. And on Hudson.
I blinked for a second in the sense that like I'm so used to nowadays I don't even know what you call it because it's not realism because it's dirt and blood being splashed on a lens is so part of the aesthetic of stuff now, whereas that was a mistake. Dirt got on the lens and we're keeping it.
Yep.
Just for me, I was like, oh yeah, remember when that stuff was a mistake and not like part of an aesthetic choice?
Yeah, but
like,
whenever that happened, they'd be like, ooh, that's great.
Yeah,
gritty.
let's leave it.
Yeah, I loved how that sand splatter went on Hudson's face as well as the camera. And it really was realistic. It was great. It really added to it. So thankfully Xena gets on that chariot and tackles Callisto off of it and they fall down that dune again.
But boy, did she pick an interesting spot to fly off.
Do you think it was an accident? It was an
doesn't
accident.
know.
She doesn't know. Yeah.
This
wouldn't throw
is the
herself
one thing
into
she
that.
couldn't stage manage.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Callisto.
No, Xena.
Xena did this.
But I always think Callisto let that happen.
She did not.
So Xena was dragging herself onto Callisto's chariot with a whip, and as she tackled Callisto off of the chariot, she just so happened to be holding that whip still. So as they fall down this sand dune, it's revealed that it's quicksand. And just like the positioning is happenstance. Like Callisto is just a little further, Xena's a little closer to this log, and she happens to be holding this whip.
And she still has her chakram.
Yes, she
which
has
is
her chakram.
valuable to rescuing her. I was very fascinated by the fact that Xena survives this quicksand because she has her special weapon. Whereas Callisto, what her favorite thing to do is stealing Xena's stuff. That's how she gets by. But she can't steal it in this moment, and she dies.
It is interesting because you were like, Callisto doesn't have her trademark stuff. As much as she wants to be Xena, she doesn't have an Argo. She doesn't have a chakram.
Or a Gabrielle.
She does not have a Gabrielle either.
I was thinking about this, and maybe this is insulting. I don't know. I wonder if you could launch an argument for how Callisto is some kind of metaphor for fandom.
Oh my god, what?
She loves watching Xena, and she's appropriative. She takes Xena's stuff and uses it, and that's how she creates new things.
Are you saying that when I make a Xena vid, I am Callisto?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how that metaphor operates, but I do think it's fascinating that Callisto, we've talked about her so often as this foil for Xena, the anti-Xena. Yeah. She should have her own version of the chakram. She should have her own horse, probably a black horse. She should maybe even have a Gabrielle-esque figure. She has Theodorus. I guess he's the closest, but it's clear she'd kill him in an instant if he tried anything Gabrielle-like with her. She's Xena alone. She's Xena without any of these things.
But I think that's the point of it. That is what makes her weak at the end. She is Xena alone, and Xena alone cannot make it.
Yeah.
It is weird, though, that she doesn't have, her own fake chakram or something, like a boomerang or something that she would create,
I think you just answered your own question.
like a crazy, triangle thing that she throws. It's like a sharp triangle. Anyway, like, let's not diminish this and discuss the scene a little bit further, because it is really epic and obviously huge for Xena to come, and just in general for Callisto as well. This moment,
we can spend the rest of eternity in Tartarus forever. This
Yeah,
is Callisto when she still thinks they're both gonna die. And
Yeah.
it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to Callisto.
Yeah, and Xena's
Always
like,
the
so
optimist.
Yeah.
I love that line, always the optimist. Oh man.
Yeah, and
So flirty.
and the moment where Xena does get her chakram out, throws it into the log, and takes the whip, gets that in there. And Callisto, again, you're seeing her watch her with that, like,
look
spark
in her eye.
That
in
Spanish
her eyes.
you're
Yeah.
good.
This Spanish glee, yeah. She's like, I can't, she's getting out of this situation. It's just amazing.
She says, "Oh, you're good, Xena."
Yeah. What do we think of the ending? She lets Callisto drown in the quicksand.
She does indeed.
Do we think Callisto's cries for help are genuine?
Yes,
They
I do.
descend into a point where I think they are.
At first they're
absolutely.
not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that
I think
she is expected to be
yeah, she
rescued.
expects her to be rescued. So it's interesting that they filmed two different versions of the ending.
Oh, okay.
Which is one where Xena attempts to rescue her, and one
And
where
can't.
she does not.
Like
So
she
she, like-
attempts and fails.
Like, it just doesn't work. That's terrible, because if Xena wanted to rescue her, she'd rescue her. She wouldn't fail. Come on. This is Xena we're talking about. I'm so glad they cut that. That would have been dumb. I get why, you want to believe your hero is doing the right thing. Callisto needs to get a fair trial and be incarcerated with the misogynists again, I guess. But I think this is the only ending that works. And, I mean, yeah, it's a tough ending.
I think that it just went a little bit further. For instance, the take that we have now in the episode, Xena goes as far as undoing the whip and just about to throw it to her when she
I don't
stops.
even know if she's just about to throw it.
She is. She
Really?
turns to her.
I thought she turns and doesn't do anything.
Well, but the next step would be to throw the whip.
Right.
She stops herself. I feel like if she was just gonna
Watch,
not do anything,
she wouldn't have untied
she wouldn't
it.
have untied the
Okay,
whip.
She
Yeah.
thought about it and
But
rejected it.
literally at that moment, she stops, and I think that's just the perfect way to go.
Yeah.
This is for Gabrielle. Like, she
Yeah.
takes the daggers for Gabrielle.
She always takes
wants-
the daggers for
Yeah.
Gabrielle.
So she lets Callisto die because she needs to remove that temptation. She can't have Gabrielle swearing vengeance.
It's amazing.
It's so
She,
good.
she
Amazing.
murders Callisto
Yeah.
so that Gabrielle won't have to.
That is one of my, I don't know if like most favorite is the right word, but the concept of Gabrielle and her innocence and pacifism, where you get later plots where Xena does end up always taking the brunt of doing all these murders because Gabrielle can't or won't, depending on the point she's at. And it's horrifying for Xena, I think, because you
She's
have
at
this person
55
who's
people
she's
now.
trying to like redeem herself, and yet she keeps having to take this stuff for other people. So yeah.
Well, I mean, later they kind of get into
Yeah, they
Way
get
of
into
the
it.
Warrior.
We'll get into it.
And
Exactly.
that's
Well, we're not there yet.
You're not there.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, and I mean, it's debatable. Is this the way of the warrior? Is this
Is
the
it?
honorable thing to do?
Right.
I don't
Is that the
know.
question?
I think this
Gabrielle
was
has already said she's abandoned vengeance. Obviously, she could be tempted to take up the sword again, but Xena does this even after Gabrielle has said, no, okay, it's not my place. Get her, Xena. And Xena's like, okay, I will get her.
The last scene is this gorgeous shot of Gabrielle looking at a sunset. Xena comes up to her and she's like, what are you doing? And Gabrielle's been thinking about Perd and, as she says, loving him.
Well, just saying goodbye to her heterosexuality. Just giving it a fond farewell.
Yep, and that's how we like it.
Bye. But it is a really lovely scene between the two of them.
And it's a nice callback to this idea that the dead can hear their thoughts, which started with Marcus and continues throughout the show.
That ending is a very lovely ending, and then I think this is the first episode of Xena that had a dedication at the end of it to Michelle Calvert, or Calvert, don't know if it's more Frenchified, who was Hudson's horse stunt double in Callisto. And it's a really sad story if you look it up, because she was like murdered by her boyfriend in a whole boat accident situation. Really sad, but I think that having that end scene go into that was partly intentional on the writers' part, and that like when they were acting the scene and doing the scene, that was on their mind. So it's actually for this person who was part of the crew, who was really young too, so it's really sad, but really turned into like a really nice dedication to her.
Well done, and also an amazing episode.
Yeah, so good.
Is this your favorite episode, Vera?
Out of the Callistos, maybe. Yeah, not like
out of like the 7 episodes that Callisto was in.
Yeah. I think this one packs the biggest emotional punch that I think is the most rewarding to me and hopefully to everybody else.
So good, yay!
Okay, well, next week we are continuing our sequels discussion with Warrior Princess Tramp.
That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, comedy sequels. Completely different situation. But for now, you can follow us on all the things.
Yes, come find us on Twitter at Xena Warrior Pod, on Facebook and Tumblr at Xena Warrior Podcast. We're doing lots of extra content over there. Please find us on iTunes. You can subscribe and rate us and leave reviews, which are always delightful. We're also on other various places. If you don't use iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, etc.
YouTube. I don't know why we're on YouTube, but we're on YouTube.
It's another place. Just for people to find.
Exactly. The power.
The passion.
The podcast.